Hi. Sea cargo is a cyclical business. When the economy booms, sea cargo volume rises and the price of container ships soars. When the economy tanks, so does sea cargo, and container ship price plunges. The time lag between boom and bust is about 4 to 6 years. You would think everyone would know it by now and act on it, right? No. Only very few investors buy container ships or containers or container makers during busts to sell them at a profit 5 years later during the boom. What's odd is that these few savvy buyers are not professional money managers who run other people's money, also known as OPM, but billionaires who run their own. Why can't professional money managers do it? Because billionaires are principals. Money managers are agent. So if they're after buying, the price falls further for a year or two, billionaires can happily end to their position because they don't have clients who would phone them to complain. Not so money managers. They cannot touch such slow cycle stocks because if they are a year or two too early, the clients not only complain but can take their money out. In other words, billionaires want to make money. Money managers really only want to keep their jobs, which is why principals can often take advantage of opportunities that agents who run OPM often cannot. Now, why do I mention this? Do I have a container ship stock in mind as an example? No, or rather close, because what's good for floating container ships that schlep cargo across oceans is also good for flying container ships, that is airplanes, who schlep people through the air. You see, just like the air cargo boom-bust business, so is the air traffic business a cyclical boom-bust. And today, that business is bust. Both flying container ships, that is airlines, and their makers, plane manufacturers, both are commercial disasters. But will this disaster last forever? Not likely. One day, airplane makers will be back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in 3 to 5 years, probably, and in 5 to 6 years, almost certainly, in my opinion. And so will airplane makers' stock be back. The question then is threefold. 1, which company will benefit the most? 2, is its stock cheap? And 3, even if it is cheap, how much cheaper can it go between now and then? And now a sidebar. Please note, billionaires worry much less about question 3 than money managers and private investors do. They can wait. Can you? This question is, of course, rhetorical, since it is not a recommendation, only an example. And with this proviso, let me answer the above 3 questions. The first, who will benefit from the future rise in demand for planes? I'll subdivide this answer into 2 parts, long-range planes and medium-range, also known as regional jets or RJs. For long range, obviously, it's the big makers who will benefit, Boeing and Airbus. I already mentioned Boeing a few weeks ago, and the stock is up 70% since. It will do well in the future, in my opinion, but as I noted, it may first tank one more time. Cyclical bottoms are messy. As for Airbus, I'll stay mum because it's too political for me to sleuth, because the planes are made by a committee of EU countries and the EU itself may not be around in 5 years. All right, now for the question second part. Who can win in the regional jet market? Here there are 4 candidates. The US Boeing, Japan's Mitsubishi, Canada's Canadair, and Brazil's Embraer. Let's take these 4 in sequence. Boeing is now focused on fixing its long-range plane that keep falling and killing people. Luckily, it has growth in military and space business. See my video of a few weeks back. Japan Mitsubishi just left the RJ business and closed its US offices and most flight tests, one competitor less. And Canadair in Canada, a subsidiary of Bombardier, is another messed up company due to management problems, due to family control of voting shares. I won't go into it. It's painful for me as a Canadian, which leaves Embraer, the Brazilian company. Its stock symbol is ERJ for Embraer Regional Jet, or rather the ADRs, which are the American Depositary Receipt of the stock, as good as. Embraer piqued my interest when Boeing, who was supposed to buy a piece of its RJ business, dropped the plan because of Boeing's own problems. Now, remember, I spoke before about the boom-bust cycle. Remember? Well, Embraer is a near-perfect example of it. Over the last 20 years, the stock had 2.5 cycles. From a high of 36 in 2001, the stock plunged to a low of 7 in 2003, over 2 years later, then rose to 44 over 4 years. This was more than 6 times from the bottom, a six-bagger, to use Peter Lynch concept. Then came another decline, once again lasting 2 years, to a low of 8. But from then bottom, the stock again rose almost 5 times, from the bottom to 39, this time over 5 years. Sure as rain, then came a decline. And the bottom low now was $4 this year, 3 months ago. At least I think it was the low. I could be wrong. To sum up, in past cycles, ERJ stock soared 5 or 6 times from bottom to top, twice, over 5 years or so. If my speculation is correct, there's the chance the stock now selling for 5.5 can do it again and get back to its former peak of 35 to 40, or a 6 or 7 bagger this time in 5 years. Maybe. Of course, it can first fall back below 4 and even stay there. Maybe or maybe not. So now for the meat of it. Why do I think Embraer can recover? What do I know that others don't? Not much, but the little I do know is significant, I think, for 3 reasons. First, I am an aeronautical engineer. I started working at Avion Dassault in Paris, helping to design the Mercure, the predecessor of the Airbus. Then I worked at de Havilland, Canada, which was later bought by Boeing, and I still have friends in the business. Second, I know Brazil a little from working at the Canadian conglomerate with a business in Brazil, and I have former GSB classmates in both Rio and Sao Paulo. I chatted to a few and learned that Brazil government, no matter how mired in corruption, would not let Embraer fail. The company needed about $1.5 billion in support soon, and it will probably get it. Probably, not sure. But you may ask, won't the US try to clip the wings of Embraer to help Boeing? I checked and learned the following gossip. Embraer and Boeing's business now overlap only a little. What's more, the US has an interest in stabilizing South America, where Venezuela is a hub of socialist instability with Russians, Chinese, and Hezbollah fomenting mischief. Mexico is, of course, a nearly failed state, where drug cartels make money selling local coke and Chinese fentanyl in the US and practically run the country. The only large, stable countries in South America are Brazil, Argentina, which, by the way, just restructured its debt, and Chile, maybe. So it's not in the US interest to clip Brazil's aircraft industry, especially when Boeing may still be interested in a future deal. Finally, I looked at Embraer's planes and discussed the design with a few people, and my speculation then is that the bust now can turn into another boom, but only 4 or 5 years in the future. Maybe. But you may ask, is the stock really cheap? My answer, only so-so, based on current lower sales. But sales may grow if there's a boom. In the meantime, the RJ backlog is good for 3 years, and the stock is certainly much closer to its historical bottom than to the top. And so how long this can be? The answer is who knows. The stock, as I said, may still fall back to the bottom of 4 or even lower. Remember, bottoms are messy. Of course, billionaires don't care that much about it. They think in 5 and 10 years horizons. That's how they made their billions. What about me? Do I care? Yes, I do, but not very much so. And just before I log off, here is a bonus question and a bonus answer. Why consider a stock in South America at all? First, because emerging markets today are much cheaper than North American ones. Much. In fact, Jeremy Grantham, the famous chairman of GMO Funds Management in Boston, says that today investors should avoid Western North American markets and buy emerging markets, of which Brazil is one, and throw away the sell key for a few years. Brazil's Embraer certainly fall into that category. Second, emerging markets are not as involved in the coming US-China battle and so can do commerce peacefully and may even be bribed by the US empire to help in the fight with China, which can act as a boost to local markets. If you remember, I already mentioned Vedanta in India a few weeks ago. The stock is up 27% since. Bottom line, although Embraer now looks bad, it's always darkest before dawn. Yes, the darkness may last for a while and the stock could fall further, but my speculation, not more than that, is that in 5 to 6 years, the stock could go up 4 to 5 times, maybe more. Maybe. That's it for today. If you like the above, give it a like, the symbolic applause of the online world, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends so they can subscribe too, and give me a remark if you want in the comment below. I'll see you next time, and meantime, thank you very much for watching.